tell us about what is Teen Club, what are your objectives, how was it founded, or what are the organizations that make up Teen Club, and the objectives, please?
Okay, Teen Club is a psychosocial support group run by Dignitas International in Malawi and is supported by USAID government. Dignitas International is an organization that works on medical and research issues in terms of HIV and AIDS. So as we're working with people who are HIV positive, we decided to have a special grouping for the young ones from the ages of 10 to 19. These are called adolescents who are HIV positive. So we run special clinics for them. The clinic is in form of a play. When they're going to the clinic, they are going there to play like soccer, netball, to dance, to do artwork and what have you. While they're playing, we have clinicians who go around and pick one by one to go into the clinic for examinations. Once they are through, they go back to the playground as well. So basically, Teen Club is, as I said, is a psychosocial support group for the young ones who are aged between 10 and 19 and they're HIV positive, and it's working in Malawi.
And so you make sure that the environment and the method in which you unpack what is going on in their lives, if they are found to be positive, is in a very calm and relaxed environment to the teenager, and that they're not going to suffer discrimination, hence you remove them from the other, you isolate each individual and you speak to them privately. Can you tell us, which other countries are you found? Do you have presence in any other country?
Okay, as Dignitas International, we are just in Malawi, in the Canada headquarters, but in Canada we are doing programs for the adults, not specific for Teen Club. For Teen Club, it's only in Malawi, but we're working with our colleagues called Bella International. They are in Malawi, Botswana, I think Uganda, and other countries as well.
And so tell us, if a teenager, how does somebody reach you? How does a teenager reach you out there? The global village is going to be full of teenagers and young girls and women in a few minutes today. And if they come through here and they come across your lovely service and product, how do they reach out to the very same? Or do you have co-partners here locally, or how can they reach your products?
Okay, basically, if anyone is coming to ICC today to maybe have a look at what we are doing, when that person enters into the global village section, just take the left turn and go to the extreme corner. You find the intersection booth written intersection, and there are sort of drawings on the wall, and you see that is the youth-friendly podium. That's where you find the Dignitas and the Teen Club.
Okay. How are you found online? Can you give us your details online if a teenager would like to get online? These days they're online all the time.
Okay, we have so many social platforms, but if you go to dignitasinternational.org, you are going to find everything. We are on Twitter, we are on Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. So just go to dignitasinternational.org, you are going to find all other addresses for Twitter and Facebook and what have you.
Okay. What are some of the success stories that you could just briefly tell us about teenagers that have received help through your organization? And yeah, tell us about that.
There are thousands and thousands of success stories, but maybe for the sake of the viewers, you may want to talk to my colleague who is on my left. She is one of the beneficiaries of Teen Club, and before she joined Teen Club, she was about to kill herself, but she survived. Maybe she can talk about it.
A success story, a beautiful teenager. You look lovely, my dear. Please tell us your name and tell us about Teen Club and your story, please.
Yeah, I'm Inocesia Mpinda from Malawi, and I'm a member of Teen Club for 5 years now. Yeah, my story goes like this. When I was found HIV positive, it was hard for me to accept that I was HIV positive, because when I asked my father if I am alright, he only tells me that a young person cannot be HIV positive. And when I see that I got some rashes on my body, so I decided to go to the clinic by myself, even though the government says if a person wants to go around to the clinic, he needs to go with her parents, only if that person is under of age. That means beginning from 15 going upwards, going downwards, I mean. And from 15 upwards, then that person can go alone. So I insisted and go there, even though I was 11 by then. When I was found HIV positive, it was hard for me because At school, we learned that we learned the methods of contracting HIV and AIDS, and the most that HIV is transmitted is through sexual intercourse. And being that by that age I didn't know anything about sexual intercourse, so it was hard for me to accept that because I didn't know where I get the disease from, because I didn't know that my parents were also HIV positive. Yeah.
So at this moment, you are hurt, you are confused, you don't know what to do, you're not sure if you understand what is going on in your life. How did you make the transition? How did you change your mind? How did you become stronger?
Okay, it happened that instead of going home, I go to the nearby river and stayed there almost for hours. And there was a lady washing, and she asked me what I was doing in the valley, and I said he asked never to mind my business anymore. So he just go home and tell my brother that I was in the valley, and my brother reluctantly come there and pick me up. So I didn't want to go to my house because I was feeling like I would be so inquisitive to my parents because I was mad by that time. So when my brother asked me what was the problem, I told him that I was HIV positive, and when he told me that he was also HIV positive, it's like I feel like I have found someone whom I will be with, sharing my problems and doing whatsoever I can do, only to my brother. So he told me that if you are HIV positive, that means it is not end of your life and you can be like anyone else who is living negatively. So I just feel like I am like the others. So I decided to ask my father about how I contracted the disease. And when I was about to ask my father, my brother told me some methods of contracting HIV and AIDS. And he told me that you can contract HIV and AIDS through mother-to-child transmission. So I think about it, and I guess that was the method that I contracted HIV and AIDS. So when I asked my father why I was found HIV positive, he only tells me that I am not supposed to worry because HIV does not kill. So according to what my brother told me, it's like I was so complicated. It was so complicated. So I decided not to listen to my father, but to listen to my brother. So my brother helped me in everything. Yeah.
And now that you're part of the teen club, how has that created support for you, the support structure, the friends, the mentors? What has it done for you, for your confidence?
Okay. At first, I was taking myself as an inferior person. And since when I joined teen club, it's like now I'm taking myself as superior, like they feel others. So when I'm in teen club, I have this peace of mind. And even I don't want to go home back because when I'm in teen club, I'm so happy than being at home. Yeah.
So what would you say to another young girl out there, speaking to my camera for me? There are young girls here in South Africa. The province which you are in is called KwaZulu-Natal. Here is a province in the whole country that accounts for the highest number of HIV infected individuals in the whole country. Now there are young girls like you out there, young boys like you out there in this country who are going through the same situation that you went through some time back. And maybe some of them are going through it right now. What have you got to say to that person who wants to kill herself out there?
What I can say is that when you are HIV positive, you are not supposed to worry because being HIV positive does not mean it's the end of a life, but it's just the beginning of another life. Because when you're HIV positive, you can stay up to 50 years or more than that. So if you are HIV positive, don't worry and just feel comfortable and accept it. Because if you do not accept it, that means can bring other problems in your body and maybe the weakness of your body, and you can also not look well to others, and anyone can know that you're HIV positive. But if you have self-control of yourself, that means you have the fitness like others who are living negatively.
You are an inspiration, you are a joy, you are so beautiful, and I wish you so very much the very best of success in life. And your life inspires me, inspires thousands of people out there, and keep up the good work. Thank you very much. What's this protest about? What are you concerned about as Treatment Network Zone? Please tell us about the protest.
So today, treatment activists from all over the world, most of them affiliated with the Pharmagreed Kills Network, paid a visit to Gilead at their promotional booth here at the International AIDS Conference. I don't know if you noticed, the promotional booths and the paid exhibitors have a lot of space. They pay a lot of money to get that space, and because they basically fund the AIDS industry. The reason we're angry at the pharmaceutical companies, specifically at Gilead, is because they block generic manufacturers from getting drugs into countries that need them, low-income, middle-income countries, and even in high-income countries, we see many disparities in who gets access to these drugs and who doesn't get access to these drugs. We feel that science is a public good, that essential medicines are a public good and belong in the public sphere. Instead, we've privatized science and medicine for the benefit of very, very few people in the global north, and the global south is suffering. Here at the AIDS conference, we're talking about trying to end the epidemic in 2030, but right now, more than half of people worldwide are not on treatment. How are we going to end it if they're not on treatment? Hepatitis C, we've seen a cure come out. It's something that AIDS activists are hoping to get in the decades to come. We have a cure. What good is a cure if no one can afford it? Something like 95% of the global infected hepatitis C infected population globally, about 95% do not have access to this cure. Even in rich countries, there is no access. So we're here to fight for generics and to challenge the pharmaceutical companies on their stances.
Don't take my mic.
Very important point. Cure has been found.
For hepatitis C, yes.
Yeah, cure has been found for hepatitis C, but somebody is blocking it, or something is. What is blocking it? Why, when it's found, how come people cannot get the cure, cannot get access to the cure? And if you say it is expensive, how much? How much is it? How much is it?
Right. So in the case of hepatitis C, it was developed in the global north by a private company, Gilead, and because of they have captured the legislation and the regulation of the pharmaceutical industry, particularly in the U.S., they have a monopoly. So they own the patent, they own this drug, and they're going to own it for many, many years, and they decide the price. So it's only through the work of AIDS activists and hepatitis C activists that we've seen them sort of reluctantly give some licenses to some countries to produce them at low prices. It's not enough. We think this entire system of tiered access, where some people get it at different prices, some countries get it at different prices, is immoral. We think this system of what is driving pharmaceutical development right now is greed, because they know that if you get the prize, you own the market. People are more important than profits, and we are not a market, we are not consumers, we are human beings, and we deserve a right to health care.
It's just on the issue of HIV and AIDS and ARVs, do you think that what is the price fluctuation doing there? Because there are still countries that have ARVs hard to access, and if they do access them, they're extremely expensive. Are you experiencing the same as you have just explained on the ARVs as well?
Well, thanks to decades of AIDS activism globally, and a lot of work that was done here in South Africa at the first Durban conference in 2000, there has been wide access to ARVs in the developing world. However, a lot of these drugs are older drugs that are not well tolerated and not as effective as the new line drugs. What we've seen is drugs become available in the rich countries in the north, in North America and in Europe, and then 10 years later, they start to trickle in to developing countries. That's completely unacceptable. Over 75% of HIV-infected people in the world are in the global south, and they should not have to wait for drugs that are available in rich countries. Introducing more competition, generic competition, changing the way that we fund research, changing the way that we give patents and monopolies to private companies is absolutely what needed. We need a global revolution. We can't just tackle this country by country.
Now, just quick question for you as an activist and being a part of the treatment network. Do you think that this company and all pharmaceutical companies around the world want a cure to be found for HIV?
I think, frankly, it doesn't really, I think that there are scientists, good scientists who are working on cures. I think the way that we're funding science globally means that if you actually want to work on that last step, if you're a scientist and you want to be part of curing something, you go into the private sector, because we've retreated in the public sector from funding this kind of research. We've given it over, and that is the problem. So I don't blame the scientists, because I know the scientists, I've worked with scientists, they are ambitious, they want that Nobel Prize, they want to see their name, in the history books as someone who contributed to these cures. But right now, the only people who are paying them to take that last mile, to take that drug, that last step, are private companies, and that's the problem.
So are private companies wanting the cure to be found?
I think private companies are dragging their feet. I think they obviously don't care about curing people. I think they care about their market,
So they're actually happy that more people have to purchase these drugs.
Yes.
Is that what we're actually saying in inference to what we're saying?
Yes. I think you could definitely say that. I think we're seeing that in the hepatitis C drugs, that as new drugs come out, they sort of wait. They want to exhaust the market for their current drugs before they'll drop the prices on the new drugs. They definitely have a plan. We know because the U.S. Senate did an investigation where they looked at the emails and the internal documents of Gilead, for example, and they had a conversation about it. Well, we know they're going to be angry at us with every price, so $150,000 might be a little too high for the insurance companies. $50,000, well, that's too cheap for us. So let's just split the difference. So they're pulling these numbers out of thin air. We know because the CEO of this company has told us that the price has nothing to do with research and development. So, and that, again, is the crux of the problem. They're taking advantage of the fact that we've allowed a free market for essential medicines. We've allowed something that should be a human right to become a commodity, and they have taken advantage of it. So they are operating under the rules of capitalism, right? But there are more of us than there are of them, so we can fight back.
So we'll keep making the noise.
Absolutely.
We make the noise here in South Africa, you make the noise in the U.S.
Exactly.
And we make the noise together.
Yeah, and sometimes we don't have to just make noise, we have to shut it down.
Shut it down.
Yeah.
Thank you, sweetie. IRGT here at the Global Village today in South Africa during the International AIDS Conference 2016. And present with me to speak to us is the two ladies that are representing, you represent England and Mexico. Can you please introduce yourselves and tell us why you are here?
Okay, well, I'm Michelle Ross from Clinic here in the UK, the only sexual health and HIV centre for trans people in England, in the UK. The reason we're here is IRGT is a network, a global network of trans women and HIV, and our voice is stronger together. So as a global network of trans rights are human rights, and we're here to represent. It's the first conference where we've been included on a pre-conference trans day on HIV issues, and it was such a groundbreaking event that Joanne Keatley, who led on this, has worked hard to bring that together. And we're here because of the HIV issues, where there's an exclusion and erasure of trans women on HIV globally, and yet we're one of the highest risk of HIV in the world of any at-risk groups.
Tell us about what are your views on policies regarding HIV and AIDS and cross-gender individuals? Can you please tell us about that? And in Mexico, since you represent Mexico, what are the rights issues there? Tell us about the law briefly and how it affects you guys, and if you have any support, and what are the challenges, and what would you like to see change in your legislation and globally?
Hi, my name is Alexandra Rodriguez. I'm from Mexico City. I represent Mexico here at RGT at the International AIDS Conference 2016. Basically, and unfortunately, transgender people have been left behind on the battle against AIDS for so long. We are one of the key populations, and unfortunately, we are left behind. In my country, transgender people have made some advances in civil rights and human rights, but there's still so much work needed to be done. There's still many changes to protect us, to entitle us to dignify medical care, to dignify access to education, to dignify access to HIV services. And I believe that we need to really urgently make changes in policy because the crisis is still rising. Transgender people are still getting infected rapidly and at high numbers, and transgender people are also still dying from AIDS.
And tell me about briefly, just quickly, about the discrimination issue against the transgender people. Has there been any change for, you know, in the last, I'm going to talk 16 years, because currently we're talking 16 years from when the last International AIDS Conference came to South Africa, to Durban specifically. So can you tell me, within the last 16 years, or even a decade, 10 years is all right, what have been the differences?
Well, if you think about here, trans rights, it's different in different countries. So when we talk about this, we talk about global issues. And in some countries like the UK, there's been a lot of advances in the rights, but not within HIV. UK is seen as having lots of HIV services. None of them focus on trans women or trans people with HIV. And the only clinic is my clinic, which I founded 4 years ago. But if that wasn't around, there wouldn't be any focus. And we have trans women with HIV-defining, AIDS-defining conditions, carcinoma, because they're not included in services. And so, but other parts of the system, there've been a lot of rights, but not on HIV.
Would you say that it is because denial, or the world is just refusing to accept, or denial?
You know, unfortunately, there's still discrimination against transgender people. We just had one of our members, she got in an accident here in South Africa, in Durban, last Monday, and she had to go to hospital, and she was denied health care. She was denied medical care because she is transgender. Yeah. So what does that tell you? Have things changed really?
So these are correctional killings.
Yeah, well, what happened is she broke her arm and they didn't know where to put her. They wouldn't put her in, they wouldn't treat her. She was in pain for 48 hours and they wouldn't even give her pain relief because she's trans. And, you know, this is still happening right here now, this day, in this centre. And this is why we launched this booklet officially on Sunday at our Pre-Trans Conference Centre here in the Global HIV Conference. And this is really, really important. We've all put a lot of work on this globally. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.